And let's go straight into the newspaper review. We'll start with the Daily Trust. The lead story there says, pressure mounts on Saraki to reconvene National Assembly. And above the lead story, we have a couple of stories making the rounds there. Kano Deputy Governor resigns Ganduje shops for replacement. You can find details of that story on page 13. And 9 core members drown in Taraba. Details on page 4. Kingsley?
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Sun newspaper. Virtually all of it is politics, with the exception of the human interest story. Unfortunately, with reporting the death of 9 core members who drowned in Taraba in the course of a picnic. That story is on pages 4 and 5 of the Daily Sun newspaper. But the photograph on the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper is also on the front page, I believe, of Daily Trust. You have that, yes. Joy, and it's also the photograph on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. It shows President Muhammadu Buhari welcoming the Senate Minority Leader, Godswill Akpabio, who visited him in London yesterday. They see the president, who is on vacation, 10-day vacation, receiving or welcoming Godswill Akpabio, former governor of Akwa Ibom State. And of course, there are still speculations as to what is happening to what is likely to happen this week. He is of the People's Democratic Party.
And it is believed that he's moving over to the APC.
To the APC. He was a 2-term governor, yes, of Akwa Ibom on the platform of the PDP, and he's currently the minority leader in the Senate of the PDP. So speculations are rife that, of course, he will be ditching the PDP and going over to the APC. So the political market for defection is still booming.
And it's interesting, you know, Kingsley, right, considering that 2019 is just around the corner.
Absolutely so, absolutely so. So there are a lot of stories that we'll continue to read. But let's take a look at the earpiece beside the nameplate of the Daily Sun newspaper. The earpiece says, how APC senators plan to unseat Saraki, and this is attributed to the reformed APC. With 2 riders, NNPC denies funding impeachment plot, as Ita Enang, who is the senior special assistant to the president on the National Assembly matters with regard to the Senate, is pleading for the reconvening of the National Assembly. It's still blackmail, that's according to APC. And by the way, the Senate is on vacation from plenary, and they're not resuming until the 6th of September. Now, the lead story for the Daily Sun says, onslaught against Boko Haram, that's the kicker. Army nabs dreaded terrorist in IDP camp, kills scores of militiamen in Benue. And the story, of course, that we just discussed a moment ago. Akpabio meets Buhari in London. Anxiety in Akwa Ibom over senators' defection rumor. Now, 2019, that's the kicker. We deserve better Nigeria. Former head of state, President Olusegun Obasanjo, details on page 12. And lastly, from the foot of the front page of the Daily Sun, Kano Deputy Governor resigns, alleges unjust treatment. That's on page 44.
All right, let's go to the Punch newspaper now. The lead story there says, Kaduna APC defies Oshomole over Sani. Kano Deputy Governor resigns, and it comes with a couple of riders. Defection, Akpabio meets Buhari in London. Our APC reps group alleged plot to bribe lawmakers to remove Saraki Dogara. You can get details of the stories from pages 2, 10, and 14. And then if you go a little bit down beside the picture story, we have some other stories there. Igbo interested in restructuring, not presidency. And that comment is attributed to Ohaneze. Details of that story, head up to page 16 for more. Truck kills 13 on Akwanga Abuja highway, and housewife stabs husband to death over telephone call. And then above the nameplate, tragedy as 9 youth corps members drown in Taraba River, and that is common with most of the papers, as you heard Kingsley earlier on. And then, nothing will make me abandon clamor for better Nigeria. That comment is attributed to Obasanjo, and you can get details of the story on page 14.
That's right. Just before we continue with the other stories, the death of the 9 corps members in Taraba, most unfortunate. Yes. The incident is said to have taken place somewhere at the River Mayo Selbe, and that is in Gashaka local government area. An incident occurred on Saturday. Yeah. The corps members, 20 of them, were said to have gone on a picnic. Well, there are conflicting accounts. Some said that the corps members were swimming, and then suddenly the waters of the river got swollen on account from flooding from nearby tributaries that were raining somewhere else. But 7 of the bodies of the 9 corps members have been recovered. 2 others, as at the time they were writing the stories, had not been recovered.
Now, is it safe to let that number of corps members go out for a picnic at this time of the year, considering the situation with the rainy season?
Well, these are adults in the first instance, and obviously if it was raining in their particular location, then it wouldn't be a picnic. A picnic is supposed to be an outdoor event that you are enjoying. But the other account also indicated that the 9 corps members who drowned were not swimming, that they were on the river bank when suddenly, the river burst its banks and then apparently, swept the 9 corps members away. It's most unfortunate. I mean, what was supposed to be a fun time, has now turned into a tragedy. Our hearts actually go out to the families and the colleagues of these corps members. And very significantly, the names of the corps members have not been released. And I think that's very important until their next of kin have been informed. And thereafter, the next steps will be taken. The incident took place once again in Gashaka local government area of Taraba State. I'm not sure what the geography is and therefore what the distance is from that particular point to the capital of Taraba State. Now let's return to politics. Nigerian Tribune, the lead story again is still on the APC and the Senate, and virtually again right at the front page is full of politics. Now, why APC can't demand Saraki's resignation? That's according to Femi Falana. Our APC raises alarm over plans to forcefully unseat Saraki. 9 state ESCO members dump Osun APC. Kano deputy governor resigns. And then the second lead story there says, presidency begs Saraki and Dogara to reconvene National Assembly. Forceful takeover of assembly will harm democracy, PDP warns. Saraki frustrated government projects, budgets, and appointments. That's according to Information Minister Lai Mohammed. Legislators loyal to the president should educate Lai on how National Assembly functions. That's according to Saraki's aide. Details of that story can be found on page 3. And also there on the front page, you have the story there. Ozobolo community holds memorial mass for 13 slain worshippers today. That's on page 8. And Southwest farmers in suspense as Nisral holds disbursed CBN loan and fear losing or missing out on planting season.
All right, for more stories from the Daily Trust, at the foot of the front page, Borno candidate emerges UTME top scorer, and troops kill 20 bandits, kidnappers in Zamfara. Then the last one there says, we broke the monopoly in pay TV and crash prices.
That's right. Just the story I read a moment ago, I don't think you have it on the front page of any of the papers that you have, and that has to do with the memorial service that is taking place later today. Ozobulu, last year, on the 6th of August, there was a horrific incident where some gunmen, stormed the Catholic church and shot indiscriminately at the worshippers. 13 of the worshippers unfortunately lost their lives. It was said to have been a fallout of some gang warfare, involving some Nigerians who were based in South Africa. So a memorial service is being held for them today, and we join the community, of course, in praying for the repose of the souls of the deceased. And we do hope that the investigation and prosecution of persons who were alleged to have been involved in that incident, that those matters are still going on, because there have been very little reports lately in the media with regard to what happened after the fact of the bloody massacre at Ozobulu. Yes,
we hope they will do that, because that will also bring closure for families of those involved.
The resignation of the Kano deputy governor is a story, if you recall, Joy, last week, yes, Hafiz Abubakar, last week there were all kinds of indications that all wasn't well with the deputy governor. Yes, and well, of course, their relationship. Now he has tendered his letter of resignation, saying that on account of irreconcilable differences and disrespect for his office and so on and so forth, he's leaving. Of course, this is also a fallout of the defection of Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, the former governor of Kano, who's now moved from APC to PDP. Hafiz Abubakar, the immediate past deputy governor, is said to belong to the Kwankwaso camp. So these are the aftershocks, if you like, of the defections of the polity.
And this probably has to also do with party ideology. Apparently, he's sticking to what he believes in. Absolutely,
absolutely. Well, 2 deputy governors have resigned in recent months. We had a Bauchi deputy governor who also resigned and immediately now followed by Kano. And of course, there are battles still arising from Kaduna, where Senator Shehu Sani, as we indicated in our bulletin, the National Working Committee has lifted the suspension order, but you read a story there saying that the local APC, that is at the ward level, senatorial level, and the state level, are saying that, look, they will not hack into what the National Working Committee has done. It has, of course, some ongoing spat with the Kaduna State Governor, and we do hope that they reconcile themselves. All right, let's take our editorial this morning, and it's coming from the Authority newspaper, and it's at page 8. It's continued killing and kidnapping on Abuja Kaduna Highway, and the editorial opens by saying that traveling on the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway has continued to be nightmarish for commuters that ply the roads. And it says that the only period in recent time that appeared like some sanity had come from the menacing activities of criminals was experienced when the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport underwent structural renovations, and all flights to the Abuja Airport were diverted to Kaduna Airport. The editorial concludes that if it requires declaring a near state of emergency in that part of the country experiencing such level of insecurity, Nigerians will have no qualms about it.
And you know, that has sent a lot of fears into so many Nigerians now. So most prefer to go by rail to Kaduna, and we hope that the authorities will do something quickly to solve this problem.
And there was a message that circulated in social media late last week and right over the weekend as to who some of the conspirators might be, that some of the stopover points may very well be positions or locations where you have informers for the bandits to say, oh, listen, there's a potential vehicle that is coming, these persons probably look well off, and then they might strike. If you recall the death of the former commissioner from Katsina, I mean, there was no attempt whatsoever to flag them down. There was no obstacle on the road, just as a vehicle approached the point where the bandits were, and they, of course, the victims didn't know this. The assailants just opened fire on them, unfortunately. So that's the editorial, and that wraps up our newspaper review segment for this morning. Let's take a short break now. When we return, we're looking at Empire, its successes and challenges.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There is no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Dettol team is visiting schools to teach children how to protect themselves from diseases. Do you know how we get illnesses like diarrhea, cough, and cold? No! They are spread through germs which are everywhere. You collect germs that cause diseases. You pick up germs from any surface, like when you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet, while playing. And then you can get sick because of germs. That's why you need to fight germs to stay healthy by washing your hands and taking your bath with Dettol soap to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Wash your hands. What you have to do is bath yourself. Dettol soap every day. Wash your hands.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Brought us as usual.
As usual. You have no problem.
For the three
you are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah?
Welcome, sir. You take that one. Yeah, take that one. You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have? You don't have?
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice.
Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about.
Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food.
I'm going to bring Mrs. Mom to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
Now they are cooking.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Now, for a peep into the topic of our discussion this morning, here is correspondent Mitaire Aikman with a background report on the NPower program.
To address growing youth unemployment in the country and eradicate poverty, especially at the grassroots, the Buhari administration rolled out a number of social investment programs aimed at creating wealth and job opportunities. The NPower program, one of several social intervention programs, was initiated by the federal government in 2016 as a 2-year paid volunteering program to provide young graduates and non-graduates with relevant skills, work tools, and experience to enable them transit from job seekers to job creators. Targeting mostly unemployed graduates between the ages of 18 and 35, the NPower program was designed in several components such as NPower Teachers Core Program, NPower Agro Program, NPower Health Program, NPower Creative Program, NPower Tech Program, among others. 500,000 beneficiaries were to be deployed to the rural communities as volunteers in various economic sectors, receiving a monthly stipend of 30,000 naira. The projection in the long run was to build a new crop of skilled and highly competent service professionals, technicians, and artisans. 2 years down the road, the NPower has recorded significant successes with youths across the country participating. It has established 250 centers nationwide under its N-Build platform for technical learning and business training of Nigerian youths in the ICT and artisanal industries, most of who are now ready to set up their own businesses. It has also provided financial inclusion for over 45,000 Nigerians, mostly in rural environments, who were previously not exposed to banking. The NPower program, however, was not without challenges, ranging from difficulty in accessing the online portal to the challenge of providing gainful employment for beneficiaries, poor management of the scheme in some states where beneficiaries are being owed, and the waiting game for 300,000 unemployed graduates who could not make the first phase as targeted. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be looking at the program to assess its prospects and challenges.
All right, thank you very much, Metari Ikwen, for that background report. Joining us in the studios now to discuss this topic in greater detail is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Job Creation and Youth Empowerment, Afolabi Imohwede. Thanks a lot for being on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
All right. Also, here with us in the studios, we have two beneficiaries of the NPower program. First, we'd like to welcome Anne Abi Agochi. She's a health educator. Anne, pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
And here as well is a teacher who is also a participant in the NPower program. His name is, wait for this, Buhari Yahaya.
Thank you very much. Good morning, sir.
I'm sure that your friends call you president.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's join. We have other guests from...
Yes, and in Enugu, we have Okodili Valentine Ilo, an Agric Extension Officer. We're glad to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria today. Good morning, Nigeria today.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigeria.
All right, let's begin the conversation straight away. It's Afolabi Imohwede. We've had you on Good Morning Nigeria in the past, and the program has been running for a while now. Give us an assessment of what the program has achieved and what it has also faced in terms of challenges.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I'm glad that the report update you have gives a bit of a background on the program. We all know that the Social Investment Program is one program that is very dear to the heart of Mr. President and his Vice, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. And this was a program that was rolled out to immediately directly impact into the lives of ordinary Nigerians. Really, this is one program that has been assessed across, across various cadres, across various sectors as one program that was very transparent. People did not have to know anyone. You just needed to be able to access the portal, follow the instructions, and you got into the program. And I'm sure Anne and Buhari will testify to that when you ask them. But above all, I think what is also important is we're also seeing the impact in the communities where they serve and also in their own lives. Just to speak to a few of the challenges that was reported. So I'm happy to say now that the 300,000 for the 2017 batch to make up the 500,000 that was promised are actually live now. They were formally engaged in the month of August. We had onboarded them onto the online portal since May, but then we were only able to get them to be fully engaged from August 1st. So at about July 20th, thereabout, we had sent their names to the various states and LGAs and states. So they started the process of deploying, and I know that states are concluding deployment now because August 1st was actually their takeoff. So that means that from end of this month, they can begin to earn. Another thing that had been reported about the application challenges which we had in the early stages, well, the reality is that was a challenge in the 2016 batch, which we still surmounted. That's why we have them in the room. In 2017 batch, it really was not a challenge because we had 2.5 million applications. And after all the vetting and cleanup and validations, which we had to do for payment validations to ensure that a lot of the payment challenges we had in the first batch, which was due to non-matching details. So this time around, we pre-validated them, their BVN, their payment account details to the details they've given us, their name, account details, bank information. So meaning, therefore, that we had 1.8 million qualified that were pre-validated. And so the struggle was to pick 300,000 out of 1.8 million. So if there was really an application challenge, we wouldn't have had that numbers. I think we also surmounted that. So I think I will stop there for now and then we'll take on the conversation. Yeah.
All right, considering the large number of unemployed people in Nigeria today, how are you able to deal with those who are not IT compliant in terms of accessing this program?
Okay, so let me mention that Social Investment Program covers all the demographies. That's the National Social Investment Program itself. So for the vulnerable poor, bottom of the pyramid poor, we have the conditional cash transfer, which deals with households. You know that we have the Government Enterprise Empowerment Program, GEEP, which gives market loans and to market to main traders, up to from 20,000 up to 100,000. And I know in this month we'll be launching the trader money that actually now caters to those who are really, really small. In fact, maybe you call them mini, maybe less than micro, small business, those who do small petty traders, that their whole inventory may not be more than 2,000-3,000, those who do Bolly, the Mishai seller and things like that. We're launching trader money for them in this month. And we'll have the homegrown school feeding that not only caters for our kids in primary 1 to 3 with the food we feed them, but the rural farmers benefit because they grow the food and the rural community women cook the food. So we have that. And even in the Empower program, it has both the graduate component and the non-graduate component. So when you speak about unemployment numbers, let's realize that unemployment numbers is not only about graduate unemployment. There's also non-graduate unemployment. Once you are above 16 or 18, you are in the labor market. So really those are all the people that make up those numbers. So the Empower program has all sides. The graduate program, which is what they represent, Ann and Co., that had a target of 500,000, which is a huge number. Then you have the non-graduate component, where we really deal with skills for competencies for specific industries. And the video we watched earlier, the coverage we watched earlier, showed the vocational component, the vocational component of it, where we train for construction, we train for the construction industry, we train for the automobile industry, and this year we'll also be training for the hospitality industry. Aside from that, we then have the technology component, where you have hardware repair and maintenance training. You also have training for software and software development, and you then have training for creative animators, graphics, illustrators, and what have you. So you find out that every part of the demography, be it graduate or non-graduate, are all captured in the Empower program.
So, in that sense,
and those, just important to know that the numbers we train there are aside from the 500,000. So for the build, we've trained 20,000 out of our 2017 appropriation. So we're expecting to train another once we start implementing the 2018 appropriation. And for the software and the technology, we have about 13,000 additional Nigerian youths, that would be trained across Nigeria.
All right, Mr. Falabi Imokwede, let's get a clearer picture of what the Empower program really deals with in terms of crunching the numbers. For the graduate, if you like, temporary employment scheme, it is 500,000 that you're dealing with. You said right now that you have in your books 500,000 who have been engaged, or who are to be engaged.
Fully engaged.
Okay, that's fine. The other leg of it has to do with the skills sector. Where you have the artisans, perhaps welders. That has to do with training, I believe. So what are the numbers, and then how long is the training program? And who organizes the training?
Okay, thank you very much. So with the Graduate Empower program, we have 500,000 now, initially 200,000, where they earn 30,000 monthly. That's an approximately 6 billion every month. That has been a direct investment in the lives of our youths since December 2016. And then and now with the 300,000 that have come on board from August 1, it means that in the month of August, by the end of the month of August, we'll actually be talking about 15 billion for that, additional 15 billion, additional 9 billion plus 6, making 15 billion for that number on a monthly basis. Now, for the non-graduate program where you do the skills competency training, it's really about reviving apprenticeship. So what we do is it's a 1-year program, 3 months in-center training. Just like was aired earlier, we had accredited about 250 centers, or we approved about 250 centers, because we don't have power to accredit. We approved based on various accreditations of the National Board for Technical Education. So we're using centers. Some are government technical colleges, some are the NDE centers, some are the Federal Ministry of Labor centers, all the gamut of technical vocational training centers across the country. So we have 250 in our pipeline. So we assign these trainees, or we deploy these trainees to these centers where they learn the various vocations for 3 months in center. Then post that, they then go for a 9 months apprenticeship. So for the M-Build, that the first batch of the M-Build that we rolled out, they started their in-center training March 1, and they ended that May 31st. And right now, as we speak, they are now doing their apprenticeship, which will run for 9 months. Now, throughout that 12 months period, they would get, yes, a transport subsidy of 10,000 naira throughout the 12 months period. But above all, they also get what you call the starter pack, the exit starter pack. So it was given to them in advance. It was first their training tool whilst they were in center, because we also provided the training consumables to each of these centers. We provided each of the trainees training manual, the training manual that was used, the logbook that was used for the assessment and what have you, and obviously paid the centers on behalf of the trainees. So whilst it is free to the trainee, it's actually an investment of about 250,000 per head from the federal government for each trainee.
Well, tell us something more about the criteria for the selection of those who are in the skills and competencies program. Age requirement, for instance, you know, basic education that you need to have.
So basically everything in Empower is between the ages of 18 to 35. Whether you're in graduate component or non-graduate component, is directed specifically at the youth. However, in the graduate component, what you must be a post-NYSC. The only exception to that is if you're in the OND program, which we know we primarily need in a lot of our primary schools, NCE ONDs. So when you're in the main Empower program, those are the only ones exempted from the NYSC discharge. But other than that, you must be a post-NYSC graduate. For the non-graduate program, we call it non-graduate because the minimum education requirement is your senior secondary school certificate. So you can, as a matter of fact, statistics have it that we had about 55–60% graduates even in the non-graduate program, because for them it was not a course of choice. They wanted to learn a skill. They wanted to gain competence in specific skills. So there's no discrimination against graduate coming in, but we just say that the minimum entry is your senior school certificate.
Now, from what you've said so far, this is a capital-intensive project. How strong is your monitoring mechanism to ensure that this program does not go the way of previous initiatives?
Yes. So first and foremost, let me answer that question by also speaking to some challenges you hear. So when you hear, for example, oh, we have not been paid, we've been in the program, we've not been paid, there are a few steps for you being paid. The first is the ensuring that we're able to validate that we're paying the right person. Hence, each person goes through the validation we do with the Nigerian Interbank Settlement Scheme NIBS. Since they're the custodian of the BVNs and since their payment account information, they validate all the payment details. So that's one validation. The next thing is, especially, we then have all our state partners work with us to monitor, because let's recall that we deploy them per local government. So the way it works, if I use the TEACH, for example, the SUBEB in the state oversights all the public primary and junior secondary schools, where most of them are deployed anyways. And the way SUBEB then works in every state is they have local government education secretary in every local government. So what it means is when I have X number of volunteers, 100 volunteers in this primary school, it is the head teacher in that primary school that takes the attendance. And so what it is that it is expected. We expect that you will work. So what they send us every month is what is called exception report. Those who now did not show up, or what they call list of absentees. So we get that monthly from the states. And once we get it, we immediately put them on what is called payment hold. So that means that they will not, so they're on payment hold for 45 days. What we mean by that is we expect that once you then realize you have been reported, and obviously your money is now on hold, you will then go and regularize yourself. The only way you can get back into the program, because after 45 days, we then exit you from the program. The only way you can be reinstated, and you will not get any backlog because that was your suspension period, is for you to obviously have done an apology letter, and the head of the institution will then write an attestation to say, yes, he or she is now remorse. And
up until a few months ago, not all the states of the Federation were involved in the school feeding program, because the states needed to meet certain criteria.
Yes.
For the Empower program, is this countrywide in terms of participation and engagement?
Yes, full countrywide across all local governments, across all states. Yes.
Including areas impacted by insecurity?
Oh, yes.
All right, so thanks. Let's pause you in the meantime and bring in the other guests who have been listening to this. Anne Agochi, she's a health educator and a participant in the NPower program. Give us your experience with regard to the NPower program. What do you do as a health educator, and why did you decide to get into it?
I decided to get into the health area because I love to help, and in the health sector we help in the sense that in my unit where I was posted to at the Kuje Primary Health Center, we help in keeping the child's record, child monitoring and growth of the child that comes to the hospital, and this is done daily, on a daily basis. Anytime the child is brought to the hospital for immunization, we help the nurses there to keep the record of the child.
Let's talk about the kind of training you got before this deployment. What kind of training did you get to help in the health sector?
We got the training in monitoring and record and monitoring from the health center which we were posted. We were trained on how to keep record when we were posted to the health center.
And for how long did this training last?
They do it in session by session. Like in 3 months, we were trained. After 3 months, we were also trained too. So we were trained twice during the program.
So right now you're on the field, you're doing something.
Yes.
And how is that for you? Are you fulfilled? Do you like what you're doing?
Yes, very well.
And how receptive are the people in the community where they send you to?
It's very okay, because we were different sets of people who were posted there. Like the usual people they normally have there. We're young, we are youths, we are young, and then we know how to relate with them better than the rest of the people that they know there before.
So how many of you did they post to where you are now, who also trained in the same field as you?
We were about 19 or so.
What are your hours of work?
We work from 8 to 4 p.m.
And apparently what you're describing is that you are a data collector. You capture the data of children and babies who come
at the immunization unit.
At the immunization unit.
Yes.
So what is this data? Is it analog or is it digital data that you are capturing? What kind of facilities do you have to do your work?
We do manually and then digital.
All right, let's pause you and then bring in the teacher who is involved in this right here with us, Buhari Yahaya. Buhari, tell us your experience as well.
All right. Good morning, sir. It was a great challenge. Actually, I was very encouraged. But along the line, when we started, or when I started, I felt, can I be able to do this? How long can I do this? But along the line, I was encouraged, so it was a great challenge to me.
So what were you doing before you enrolled for this program?
Actually, when I graduated from school, I couldn't have anything doing at hand, but I was helping my family at home in 1 or 2 ways, most especially in the farming aspect. But when I was enrolled in the program, I was happy about that.
What did you study?
I studied business administration.
When did you graduate?
I graduated 2016.
So what are you doing now in the NTeach segment of the NPower program?
Actually, I'm teaching now.
What are you teaching?
Business studies.
Which school is this?
In Gaube, GSS Gaube.
Come again?
GSS Gaube in Kujeria Council.
And how receptive are your students to your work?
It is a welcoming development to them. They were happy that they've gotten a new teacher who is actually helping them in the areas of business studies.
So would you say this program is a good development at this stage in our history in Nigeria?
Actually, it is. It's a very encouraging development, and we would love to see it go further.
What are the challenges you faced in the process of training before you moved to the school to teach?
The challenges I faced was that when I stand in front of the classes, I look at the student will just look at me. So I felt, can I do this? But along the line, I picked the courage and said, yes, I can do this. Actually, when I was serving, I was teaching actually. So I said, this is not different from this. They're all the same. So what would be a problem? So that was how I picked up.
I was just wondering, you know, Buhari, did you imagine you were going to be a teacher sometime in the future?
Never. I don't imagine that at all. But now I am a teacher.
You like it?
Yes, actually I like it.
And you enjoy it?
Very well.
And your stature isn't something that your pupils or your students would take advantage of?
Well,
you know, you're a very big man. The camera is not showing.
Well, sometimes, you know, the students, they love giving their teachers nickname. Yeah. So sometimes when they see me based on my stature, they will say, that short uncle is coming.
All right, they will say that to your hearing. But no. Back to you. I mean, what's your background? What did you study? And
I studied BSc in mass communication.
So you have a BSc in mass communication?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And now you're in the health sector. How is that for you? A shift from mass communication to the health?
It's not different from what we usually do in school, because we also do health communication. It's part of the courses we've offered in the university. So it wasn't difficult for me to key into the health sector.
Do you find this sufficiently challenging? I mean, just merely taking, that's a clerical, it looks like a clerical function. A baby comes, you put the baby on a scale. I hope they have a scale there. Yes, and then you have a height meter. You put that. That's a clerical function. Anybody can do that. Do you find that sufficiently stimulating for your brain?
No, sir.
So okay, let me go this way, because I also I did something similar in the university. It's called Theatre for Development, and you know that gives you access to the people at the grassroots. Now, do you take advantage of what you studied as a mass communicator to also use that opportunity to reach out to people at the grassroots? That's like adding more, you know, adding more value to what you learned in the university. Are you doing that?
Yes, because from time to time, I try to look at issues that borders women and children generally that we wouldn't have talked about. I go to the internet, I make research, and then I talk to people about it in my clinic.
That's interesting.
All right, so thanks a lot. And let's go over now to our Enugu Network Center, where we are introduced Okudile Valentine Ilo. Okudile, of course, you've listened to your fellow Power participants, you know, give us their experience. You should also tell us something about yourself. How did you get into the Power program, and what are you doing now?
Thank you very much. I left school 2011, and after my National Youth Service, I couldn't get a job for 4 years. And about 2016, when I heard about this program online, I actually registered for it. And we had options of you choosing whether to be under N-Agro category, or N-Teach, or N-Health. Because I studied cooperatives and rural development, I decided to go into N-Agro. And 1 year, 8 months down the line, I can actually beat my chest and say, yes, I am a fulfilled person. Because 4 years, there was no job. And the government of Muhammadu Buhari gave me the opportunity to be employed. And within these 4 years, I have actually made good impact into the lives of my community. By one, I created a cooperative within the farmers. Because for you to get loan, you need to be in a cooperative, of which I also include myself as one of the members of that cooperative. I've also, within this period, have a demonstration plot, management training plots, where I demonstrate new technology and techniques in agriculture. Before we actually went into the program, there was a 3 weeks intensive training on different crops and other plants that was given to us. Then after which we were asked to go into action. And subsequently, every fortnight, we have what we call fortnight meetings, FNT, at the local government level, where the zonal manager under ADP, Agricultural Development Program, takes us through so many developments and new techniques that comes into go to the community and impact the farmers. And this is what we've been doing for the past 1 year and 8 months. This program has been on.
Okudile, it's nice to hear all that coming from you. Would you say the kind of training you got before you started your work is intensive and it's actually helping you carry out your assignment appropriately?
Okay, there was a training on agric, different crops, what to expect to the farm, how to talk to the farmers, and how to report issues. Because as an agricultural extension officer, I am meant to directly work and hear from the farmers in terms of problems and the rest of them. So a lot of crops were introduced, maize and the measurements, yam miniscent and the rest of them, tomatoes, so many crops we were putting through during that period on how to plant it, cassava, and new technologies in cassava, like the provitamin A and the sweet potato, provitamin A sweet potato, which is actually good presently. So these are some of the things we were taught within that period and meant to impact that into the farmers, of which it is a great success.
How many of you were involved in your particular training?
All N-Power and Agro beneficiaries here in Enugu State, in the different local governments, were involved in that training.
What has been your experience as an agri-extension officer interacting with farmers?
Okay. At the initial stage, we had issues of penetrating into the communities. Well, we came into the community where we were posted and introduced ourselves as agri-extension officers posted to those communities. Actually, they are kind of shown some rejections in the sense that they said each time they keep seeing government officials coming closer to them, telling them one thing about agriculture. At the end of the day, they don't see them come back. So, but we were able to convince them that ours was a different thing. Ours was to make them, the product yield very well. Then we had to also meet the traditional rulers who actually organize the communities. And also, most times, we visit churches on Sundays to talk to them in their churches with the help of the priest or reverend there. So that was exactly how we were able to talk to them. And each time we now come to impact knowledge to them, they will listen to us.
Well, you talked earlier about improved varieties of various crops that you are introducing to these farmers, as well as improved technology. Who are the suppliers of these improved seedlings and demo technology?
Okay, we get that from the Agricultural Development Program under the Ministry of Agriculture here in Enugu. So these varieties comes to us, we introduce them to the farmers, and in our management training plots, we demonstrate it there. Each time there is need to revisit it, we revisit them and tell them this is exactly what they need to do and replicate same in their own farm. And to tell you, it has been a great success.
What is your scope of coverage? How many communities do you cover? And as you are on this program, do you have regular interaction with, you talked about the state ADP, with officials from the State Ministry of Education, Ministry of Agriculture, who previously acted as agri-extension officers? So first, what is your scope of coverage? How many communities do you cover? And how do you visit these communities? Who pays for your logistics?
Okay. I am meant to cover 2 communities, Uhuezenenwe and Amoji. And in Amoji, we have 6 villages in Amoji. And in Uhuezenenwe, I have 7 villages in Uhuezenenwe. Then I have a timetable, days I visit each community. Then because of these communities are so large, What I do is that every day, I try to visit at least 2 communities, visit the management training plot, do my required demonstration with the available farmers. Most times, we do visit them at their farms. Then talks about logistics. It is still from our stipends that we do this. Nobody pays us. Every day I leave Enugu to Ogu local government or Aneru local government, depending, to do these demonstrations. So all these things comes from the stipends we get from the federal government. So nobody sponsors it. In most times, we had to provide some seedlings, some inputs in order to do or demonstrate. We do that as a collective. Most times, when it is too large, and agro beneficiaries within that community. Just like I said, I'm covering Uwezene and Amoji. There are other communities around that other beneficiaries are actually taking care of. So when the project is so large, we come together as one body, as a block, then try to carry out such projects, contribute within ourselves.
Right, Okudule, thanks. We're going to pause here in the meantime. It's not the new yam season already, is it? In Ogu area, is it? Is the new yam out?
I didn't get that.
New Yam, you know, that's the New Yam Festival is a big ceremony in the southeast. It's not the New Yam season yet, is it? Not the New Yam season yet, is it?
Not. It's towards October, November.
Right, so we wish you and your farmers, co-farmers, heavy and a healthy bumper harvest.
Obviously,
all right.
they're doing very well.
Yeah, they're doing very well. The agro, this is one of the issues that in discussing agri matters on Good Morning Nigeria, there was always that lacuna in terms of manpower shortages. Various state ministries of agriculture had virtually neglected the agri extension program, extension services that ordinarily they would, take to the farmers in sometimes, hard to reach, even not so difficult to reach locations. So this would appear to be a stopgap measure, and that's what I was asking. But the aspect that he hasn't responded to is the frequency of interaction and whether now the state Agric ministry officials are merely sitting back and saying, look, since these are federal government people, let them go on. That's my question is going to Afolabi Imokwede. Who bears the cost of all of this?
So let me say, so again, you're right. One of the things about, so of the 200,000, 30,000 of them are in the Agric extension of the first batch. In this second batch of 300,000, we have 100,000 of them that would actually be towards the agric extension. And that was clearly to plug the gap that you've spoken about. Now, what you find is that the dynamics are different from state to state. It's really it depends on how much of a focus the state places on agriculture. In a state like Delta, for example,